Welcome to College Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: democracy is a bit like breakfast, the push for nourishing civics education in NSW schools. Henry Rono, runner who broke 4 world records within a few weeks in 1978, obituary. Sunday's time schedule. Research project focused on crucial ecosystem gets $1.4 million boost. On private schools, labor is leveling down. Democracy is a bit like breakfast, the push for nourishing civics education in NSW schools. The Sydney Morning Herald. The New South Wales Education Standards Authority in Australia is set to release a new human society and its environment syllabus that will have an enhanced focus on civics. The move comes as belief in democracy wanes among Australian adults, with a study finding that 1 in 7 think that we should get rid of elections and parliaments and have experts make decisions on behalf of the people. The new syllabus aims to bolster students' knowledge of democracy and its processes. Critics argue that the issue goes beyond the school curriculum and cite the behavior of politicians as contributing to disillusionment with democracy. Henry Rono, runner who broke 4 world records within a few weeks in 1978, obituary. Telegraph. Kenyan long-distance runner Henry Rono, who broke 4 world records in 81 days in 1978, has died aged 72. Rono set new records in the 10,000 m, 5,000 m, 3,000 m steeplechase, and 3,000 m, smashing the previous records by significant margins. However, Rono's career did not deliver the expected number of medals, partly due to Kenya's boycott of the 1980 Olympics and Rono's struggles with alcoholism. He eventually overcame his addiction and gained a teaching qualification before retiring to his home village in Kenya in 2019. Sunday's time schedule. Associated Press. The article provides a list of sporting events taking place on Sunday, February 18. The events include the NBA All-Star Game, NHL games, college basketball games, auto racing, golf tournaments, and tennis matches. Some notable matchups include number 2 Purdue vs Ohio State in men's college basketball and number 1 South Carolina vs Georgia in women's college basketball. Research project focused on crucial ecosystem gets $1.4 million boost. ABC. A research project on critical peatland ecosystems in Western Australia has received $1.43 million in funding from the Ian Potter Foundation. The project, led by Edith Cowan University, ECU, the University of Western Australia, UWA, the Department of Biodiversity Conservation and Attractions, DBCA, and the WA Museum, aims to improve the management of the peatlands in the Walpole Wilderness. Peatlands store more carbon than any other ecosystem on land but are relatively under-researched. The project will investigate peatland formation and their unique biological characteristics. The funding will also help address challenges in managing the vast and remote area. On private schools, labor is leveling down. Telegraph. The Labour Party's plans to impose VAT on private school fees if it wins the next election will harm vulnerable pupils, according to an op-ed in the Telegraph. The author argues that the proposal is driven by resentment and class envy, and that it will hurt the private school sector, which is already suffering due to high taxes and regulations. The article also argues that private schools are a success story and should be celebrated, not attacked. The author suggests that a responsible party would think creatively about how to help the sector flourish, rather than imposing a tax that reduces choice and opportunity. Dante scores 22 with late dunk, sends Oregon past Oregon State 60-58. The Toronto Star. N'Faly Dante scored 22 points, including the game-winning dunk with 1 second left, as the Oregon Ducks held off a comeback by the Oregon State Beavers to win 60-58. This victory marks the 6th straight win for the Ducks over the Beavers. Oregon had a 13-point lead in the second half, but Oregon State rallied to tie the game at 58 with 40 seconds remaining. However, Dante's dunk secured the win for the Ducks. Jackson Shellstead added 15 points for Oregon, while Michael Ratai led the Beavers with 17 points. Matthew Morrell hits 6 from distance, scores 26 points to help Ole Miss beat Missouri 79-76. Associated Press. Mississippi rallied from a 10-point deficit to beat Missouri 79-76 on Saturday night. Matthew Morrell made 6 three-pointers and finished with 26 points for Ole Miss, who used a 25-6 run to take a 69-60 lead with 5 minutes left. Sean East too led Missouri with 25 points. Former YouTube CEO's son found dead at UC Berkeley. Yahoo! The 19-year-old son of YouTube CEO, Susan Wojcicki, has died at the University of California, Berkeley. The son, Marco Troper, was found at the Clark Kerr campus student housing complex. There were no signs of foul play and an investigation into the death is underway. It has been suggested that it was a drug overdose and the family is waiting for the results of a toxicology report. How did cultural practices over Lunar New Year come about and what do they symbolize? ABC. Chinese communities have numerous auspicious practices that they adhere to during Lunar New Year to set the tone for the rest of the year. These practices are rooted in symbolism and homophones, with every practice aimed at upholding positive themes. For example, Chinese people consider it unlucky to buy new shoes, as the Chinese word for shoes is pronounced the same as the word for evil. Similarly, cutting your hair on New Year's Day is considered bad luck because it was historically associated with a grim past. Chinese people also follow certain etiquette when visiting others, such as gifting hongbao, envelopes of money, as a symbol of double happiness. Eating fruit is also seen as a way to invite good wishes, with certain fruits representing different well wishes. Traditional customs and rituals vary between groups of people and regions, and they should not be labeled as superstition. These practices help uphold cultural heritage and demonstrate respect for traditions and ancestors. Solemn monument to Japanese American World War II detainees lists more than 125,000 names. The Toronto Star. A team of researchers have spent over 3 years documenting the names of over 120,000 Japanese Americans interned during World War II. The team, led by religious studies professor Duncan Ryukin Williams, have created the Iricho, a book containing the names of 125,284 detainees, which will be on display at the Japanese American National Museum in Los Angeles until December. The team also launched a website on February 19, the Day of Remembrance, which will allow visitors to search for additional information about the detainees. The third part of the project consists of a collection of light installations at incarceration sites. Williams and his colleagues are aiming to raise awareness of the internment, which saw Japanese Americans incarcerated in hastily built barracks, surrounded by barbed wire. 2/3 of the detainees were American citizens. The project was inspired by stone Buddhist monuments built by detainees at internment camps in California and Colorado. Compromise for the sake of unity. Yahoo! U.S. political unity is being threatened by a lack of compromise, according to Thomas B. Griffith, a former judge of the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. Griffith notes that the U.S. Constitution was only created after the delegates to the convention in Philadelphia were willing to set aside parochial interests, come to a compromise, and in some instances even give up cherished liberties for the sake of unity. Such compromise is vital if the U.S. is to overcome its current state of toxic political polarization, Griffith said. Unique Jewish group welcomes interfaith message from Hindu professor. Yahoo! Rabbi Alan Scott Bachman hosts a unique Kabbalat Shabbat service in Salt Lake City, where he aims to bring together music and people of different faiths. The service, named the House of Prayer for All Peoples, invites guest speakers from a variety of religious backgrounds to give lectures. Rabbi Bachman's band, Desert Wind, performs at the service, which is also streamed online. Pramathesh Chatterjee, a professor at the University of Utah, was invited to give a lecture on Vedanta, a school of Hinduism, at the most recent service. Knicks Jacob Toppin eliminated in first round of 2024 Slam Dunk Contest. Yahoo! New York Knicks rookie Jacob Toppin was eliminated in the first round of the 2024 Slam Dunk competition during All-Star Weekend. Toppin was hoping to follow in the footsteps of his older brother Obi, who won the competition in 2022. Toppin's first dunk involved jumping over Obi and completing a reserve slam, earning him a score of 47.8. His second dunk, a between-the-legs 360 slam, received a score of 47.2. Ultimately, Toppin was unable to advance to the second round, with Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics and Mac McClung advancing instead. McClung went on to win the dunk championship for the second consecutive year. Despite not advancing, Toppin put in a commendable effort in his first slam dunk appearance. Big second-half run helps Ole Miss basketball escape disaster, beat Missouri. Yahoo! Facing a 10-point deficit at home against a Missouri team winless in SEC play, Ole Miss basketball had 12 minutes and change to find a way to sustain its NCAA tournament at-large dream Saturday. Extremely bleak, is Korean diplomacy's untimely death a harbinger of war? South China Morning Post. North and South Korea's lack of diplomacy is heightening the risk of direct conflict, as tensions escalate over weapons tests, military drills, and mutual threats of destruction. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's hardline stance is feeding into North Korea's aggression, which is being used by leader Kim Jong-un to justify his own iron-fisted rule and building up of a nuclear arsenal. Attempts to force Pyongyang to abandon its nuclear weapons program through further sanctions are seen as wishful thinking, as the regime fears that complying would mean its own downfall. The North's provocations are only likely to intensify this year amid joint military drills, parliamentary polls, and the U.S. presidential election. The Kim regime may try to portray President Yoon and President Biden's policies as failures ahead of the elections by firing cruise missiles. The two sides are stuck in a deadlock with no real possibility of cooperation, and the prospects for reducing tensions seem extremely bleak. Concerns are growing that a second Donald Trump presidency would weaken the U.S. commitment to defending South Korea, leading to calls for South Korea to arm itself with nuclear weapons. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six, your resident observer from the six-dimension world. Today, we have covered a diverse range of topics, from the push for civics education in Australian schools to the tragic passing of Kenyan runner Henry Rono. We also touched on sports events, research funding, political debates, and cultural practices during Lunar New Year. And of course, we can't forget about the slam dunk contest and the escalating tensions between North and South Korea. Now, let's dive into some analysis. The focus on civics education in New South Wales schools is a crucial step in addressing the growing disillusionment with democracy. While critics argue that the problem goes beyond the curriculum, it's important to equip students with the knowledge and understanding of democratic processes. After all, democracy is a bit like breakfast. It may not always be perfect, but it's still the most important meal of the day. On the sporting front, we witnessed some thrilling moments, from N'Faly Dante's game-winning dunk for the Oregon Ducks to Matthew Mull's impressive shooting performance for Ole Mississippi. And let's not forget about the Knicks' Jacob Toppin, who may not have advanced in the slam dunk contest, but still put on a commendable effort. Sometimes, it's the journey that matters more than the destination. Moving on to more serious matters, the escalating tensions between North and South Korea are indeed cause for concern. The lack of diplomacy and the aggressive posturing from both sides raise the risk of direct conflict. It's essential for leaders to find a way to de-escalate the situation and seek peaceful resolutions. After all, nobody wants to see a real-life version of a Korean drama turning into a tragedy. Lastly, we explored the cultural practices during Lunar New Year, which are not just superstitions but are deeply rooted in symbolism and traditions. These practices help maintain cultural heritage and demonstrate respect for ancestors. So, next time you receive a hongbao or avoid buying new shoes during the Lunar New Year, remember that it's not just about luck, but also about upholding positive themes and traditions. Now, I turn to you, my esteemed audience. What are your thoughts on these topics? Are you concerned about the state of democracy? Do you have any favorite sporting moments from the past week? How do you feel about the tensions between North and South Korea? And have you ever celebrated Lunar New Year and followed any cultural practices? I'm eager to hear your thoughts and answer any questions you may have. Let's engage in a lively discussion and continue our exploration of the world around us. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.